tons of updates for almost all your favorite sims right here, right now. Greetings from me, you're watching RumRum, the channel sharing the joy of sim racing and our regular news roundup, our weekly sim racing news. Thanks to all those who come here often, especially those who subscribe, and even more, our patrons. My name is Serta and I will be your host for this video. Even in the world of sim racing, when it rains, it pours. For weeks we get no updates, now we get Automobilista 2, Le Mans Ultimate, Beam.NG and everything else all at once. An embarrassment of riches all of a sudden. But I'm not complaining. I'd rather do a 20-minute news video every week for the rest of my life than not have any news ever again, because our hobby is dying, which at the moment doesn't look like it. One example will be the Sim Racing Expo at Dortmund this year. There are so many exhibitors that we are forced to carefully picking and choosing who we will have extended conversations with, because in no way, shape or form will we be able to record an interview with each and everyone we are interested in. The expo would have to be a week long for that. But we have already some content scheduled until the Sim Racing Expo, and depending on the answers by different companies to our questionnaire, we'll be telling you what the companies bring, and we'll have what we expect to be a great conversation with someone deeply in the know of sim racing in our next regular podcast. Be on the lookout for it. We'll have a stream on the first day, walking and talking through the whole of the expo so you see what is there. We'll do our extra podcast for the Sim Racing Expo, and of course, we'll have as much information as possible after the SRE, packed in extra videos. Man, I'm getting giddy and exhausted at the same time just thinking about it. It will for sure be a great time, and we'll meet tons of old friends and make new friends. It's in less than 1 month's time, and as soon as the SRE closes its doors, we'll be gearing up for the Sim Formula Europe, and we're keeping an eye at that expo in Chicago that has been announced. Busy times for your favorite sim racing channel, so you'd better subscribe if you haven't already, or you'll miss the action. And if you want to support us through Patreon, we for sure won't have anything against it. Travel and lodging is expensive, not to speak of all the gear for filming, and patrons take part in our decisions, like, for example, who we interview at the expo. The poll is already active. Enough about the future, here's the news. Another sim with a big update and lots of news is Le Mans Ultimate. While Motorsport Games is barely surviving, the developers are putting their all into it, and I hope they get a big race if and when the company survives, because their work is saving the company. In fact, I very much hope the C level is getting $1 per month until the company is saved. But I digress. From next week, Tuesday on, you will be able to buy the second DLC with Circuit of the Americas, the Alpine A424 and the Isotta Fraschini Tipo 6 Competizione. And how much for 2 cars and a track? €10 USD. Yep. The pricing is as over the top as it was with R Factor 2 for sure. Another one I will skip for sure, because these prices are bonkers and almost at the level of iRacing. Coming for free will be a lot of liveries, but also important updates. If you are a solo player, you will be able to save and resume your race during a pit stop, thus being able to do 24-hour of Le Mans in days. Something I always loved from GTR2 and that I expect will also be used often here. With Season Select, you can now choose between the 2023 and the 2024 season. Not much choice, but I would expect the LMU team to be working on iconic past seasons in a not so distant future, provided the company survives that long, that is. Another interesting feature will be co-op racing. While MSG say themselves this is an early version, it will allow you and your buddies to race in your own time and to get get everything put together in a virtual leaderboard to make a complete race out of it. MSG don't give a lot of details on how this is supposed to work, but it seems you will race your part, then give the car in some way to the next driver in your team, who then can race their part in their own time, pass the car, and so on. We expect it will be something like a shared save game, but as I said, no further details have been given by MSG about it, so we'll have to check on Tuesday. You will have to be logged in to race control to be able to use that co-op mode. No surprise here. Next in line for content work will be LMGT3, which may come in the third 2024 DLC expected end of the year. Much nearer, on the 30th of September, MSG will raise the price of the sim from the actual €30 or 33 USD to €35 or 38 USD. At some point in the future, they will also be adding broadcast overlays, which we hope work better than the RF2 ones, and particularly interesting for me specifically, but I suppose many others, is virtual reality support, which is taking them much longer than I would have expected. A thing that is sorely missing from this update though is any mention of work on physics and therefore force feedback, which LMU does need, even if it's better than many other sims, having inherited the RF2 physics. Star Trucker just came out and we published a review of it. Not here, but on our sister channel Space Crazy. So if you want to know how it is and overall want to know more about space games, follow the link up there. Euro Truck Simulator 2 published a Kespora trailer pack DLC with 7 of the trailers produced by the German company and some decorations for your cabin if you feel so inclined. And while we're talking trailer DLCs and ETS2, the Krone trailer pack got an update with the Trailer Dynamics e-trailer, a trailer specifically built to work with electric trucks, with braking, energy recuperation, and its own electric drive. Keeping with truck simulators, American Truck Simulator released their Arkansas DLC and updated their Forest Machinery DLC. Because Arkansas has a lot of forestry and logging, new machines will be added for free in the DLC. SCS have even bundled both DLCs, creating the horrible pun of the Arkansas bundle. A pun even I find too easy to make, so that's a first. Anyway, you can get both DLCs for €13 USD instead of the $14.50 both DLCs would cost by themselves. Not much, but I get the feeling the pun came first, then came the idea of the bundle. The CEO of Corsair Gaming published a statement as a picture because just text is too last decade or something. Anyway, regarding Corsair buying Fanatec, check the link up there for the news. He made it clear that Corsair want to improve customer service and speed of delivery first and foremost, which is a good idea in our opinion. For that, they will integrate Fanatec support in their already existing global support. I see a lot of training in Fanatec stuff in the future for the customer support hotline, or at least translating the scripts first level support uses. Also, all warranties for Fanatec products will be honored and no disruption will happen. Warranty cases should be addressed to Fanatec still. And reading between the lines, it seems quite clear Corsair will keep the Fanatec brand alive and kicking, which is the right thing to do. The brand may be scorched here and there, but it still has a healthy image, and we think it's not broken beyond any possibility of repair. iRacing published a second patch to their Season 424 release with fixes to the connectivity, fixing what they call a significant temperature change at 4 hours and 6 minutes into a session. That's a strange one. The developers also fixed a myriad of graphic issues, all quite small but not insignificant. The patch also brings many fixes, corrections and liveries to many cars and to many tracks. The details as always in the description of this video. Dutch engineering company SimRep not only will present next week a new wheel, which we're told is going to be the... What was that? Present a new wheel which they will also bring to the Sim Racing Expo. They are crossing the boundaries between motorsport and sim racing once again, and they will be developing the next gen wheels that Chip Ganassi Racing will be using in IndyCar. Chip Ganassi Racing being of course the team that 3 times an actual IndyCar champion Alex Palou is racing with. Congratulations SimRep, once again showing world-class engineering in sim racing is also world-class engineering in motorsports. Oh, and make no mistake, as they did with the Cosworth wheel, they will also have a sim racing version of the IndyCar wheel for your delight, but probably not yet at the Sim Racing Expo this year. Yet another popular sim with an update and a hotfix this week was Beam.NG bringing the Gavril MD series as a new vehicle, which is a medium-sized truck with different customizations inside the cabin as well as to the setup of the truck, including a pickup version as well as a tanker version and 4 different off-road versions. But also a bonkers version with rockets and a ram plow so you can go around doing what most do in Beam.NG, raining down mayhem and destruction. The Gavril T-Series got what the team expects will be the last round of updates, with even a version for drag races. Also, a lot of vehicles got new aftermarket parts, liveries and configurations. Trailers got some fixes, as did props. West Coast USA got many configuration and cosmetic changes, and with regards to missions, you will now be able to drag race within a mission, and the drift mission got an update. The career mode saw a lot of improvements, as is to be expected when a functionality is in early development. An important update is the Road Architect tool, which will allow you to configure roads quite precisely, being able to fiddle around at your heart's delight. But it's not all on the outside. The force feedback also got many small tweaks, which we expect will make it even better. VR got some improvements and fixes too, as did the cameras, and you will be able to move 1 frame at a time forwards or backwards in replays. There's a lot of smaller details very deep into the game engine, so check the links in the description for the whole detailed information about this update. Oh yeah, this is what you have come here for. Get your nice cold or warm beverage ready, because we're about to explain what Automobilista 2 is planning for the 1.6 version, at least 1/3 of it. We talked about part 1 ages ago when the dinosaurs roamed the earth. See the link to the video up there. At that time, Renato Simeoni promised to deliver part 2 at the end of the month. Well, considering how Reza time goes, we have to count ourselves lucky it's not the end of the year 2025. All jokes aside, Reza are doing their thing, testing, improving, and so on, and here's what they have to say about their newest development cycle, with a 3rd part promised in the near future, whatever that means in Reza time. Automobilista 2 will now support grid sizes up to 48 cars, so you can really emulate those big endurance roadsters. This is a big step, and Reza had to clean up a lot of the Project Cars code that is still in the Madness engine, as that was mightily in the way of reaching that number. Now, if they would be able to support those numbers in multiplayer for 24 hours or more... Hey, a girl can dream, you know. Back to the grid size. While we know size doesn't matter, you will have to have at least 12 GB of memory in your computer to be able to run grids that big. Me, I upgraded to 32 GB a long time ago, but I understand you may not be so inclined. I say check the prices for RAM regularly, and when they once again drop below your preferred threshold, go for it. RAM is an important part of keeping a Windows machine working because Microsoft developers don't know how to program good software and therefore pile everything onto RAM. Oh, and at the moment only Grade 1 tracks support those large grids in Automobilista 2, Grade 2 and Grade 3 will follow in time. It's a work in progress. With regards to the aforementioned multiplayer, Razer have worked heavily to reduce the server load so you can enjoy their sim on Just Race, the better option to race multiplayer anyway, or on Racecraft Online. Yes, we choose to ignore low-fuel motorsports and their marketing-infused moves, which have always gone the path of least resistance. We don't care for that kind of thinking. Back to Automobilista 2. Razer have reduced the send rates for information packets by 75%, so client and server need less data to still function correctly, reducing the load on the network, and the server have corrected a function that could lead to mass disconnects, have reduced the cutoff time to rejoin, and are allowing for drivers to share setups. Yay! First tests with Just Race have proven fruitful, so Razer hope they are making good on their year-long multiplayer promise. We'll see. Razer have made it very clear this is not the end of the road for Automobilista 2 and multiplayer, just an important milestone. The sim will get once again improved graphics with revisions to environment lighting, vehicle materials and updated shaders. Razer also inform us that next year they will be working on shadows, which as you may know are a bane in sim racing, eating up a lot of CPU and GPU cycles for a fleeting effect. The 1.6 update will bring trackside pyrotechnics, which, okay, nice, but unimportant to me. Dynamic exhausts for better immersion and realism, tires becoming visibly wet when driving in such conditions, and 3D trees. You know trees? The things you only see in a blur while you are trying to survive a race, or that you see in full detail flying towards you when you don't. Speaking about rain and weather and all that, Automobilista 2 will now take humidity levels into account for those moments in the day or in a race where it's not yet wet but it's not dry either, including fog and haze, and something I personally think looks very cool: vortices on the rear wing. An important update that has to do with track conditions is a combination of more precise physics calculations and the changes in tire behavior we talked about last time, and will determine the amount of rubber that gets layered on track and the places on track it gets layered on. These calculations will also determine the amount of water that gets sprayed in the wet, which in turn will influence visibility and how fast the track dries up again. And yes, Razer have once again done a pass on all these calculations to include road inclination and drainage properties, inching their way to the goal of better realism and immersion. After what we told you about the changes to tire hysteresis and thermodynamics, there are not many more physics updates, and Renato thinks Automobilista 2 is reaching a plateau with regards to physics where any update will have tremendous costs for only small gains. But on the other hand, we're talking Razer, eternal tinkerers and searchers for the better option, so maybe 1.7 will bring yet another massive change. Or not. The physics in Automobilista 2 are a significant improvement from the beta state and better than in most other sims out there, maybe on par with rFactor 2 already before this update. From multiplayer to single player, the AI will be decisively more defensive, react better to blue flags, and will set itself up to leave enough space before qualifying or hot lapping. Also, it'll be more strategic with pit stops and will not avoid going over track limits if it helps it avoid incidents. But Razer reminds us these rules will change from class to class and especially from driver to driver, because remember, they gave every driver their own character traits. And while this is all for now, Renato clearly says there will be a part 3 coming soon, whatever that means for Razer, in which he will talk about what they did with sounds and for sure a lot of more updates. Hold on tight.